Tying up another Carrie Stevens fly today from the Hilliard book on Carrie Stevens patterns, and this one is called the Demon. Interesting fly. The body is fairly straightforward, just some tinsel and orange floss, underbelly of white bucktail, but the wing on this has Lady Amherst shoulder in it. And it's kind of interesting to work with it because you want the shoulder to be somewhere around about halfway down the body. Problem is if you shorten these up a little bit, they also narrow up, so it's not as wide across here. So it's just an interesting material to work with in some of these flies. Thought it would be a nice fly to do a video on. So that's the Demon. I'll get started tying. Start the Demon with my hook in the vise. This is a Partridge CS15. It's a 9X long streamer hook. I've already debarbed the hook, and I've gone ahead and attached the thread. Almost all of these Carrie Stevens patterns have a base layer of thread on them. So just to speed things up a little bit, I went ahead and attached the thread. For thread, this is a white. This is a Danville Rayon monochord in white. That's the base because I have an orange floss body on this, so I want to have a white thread so that it doesn't darken up the floss on that. There is no tail on the Demon. There is a tag, and then there's the body and a rib. The tag and the rib are going to be a silver tinsel. I'm using a Danville size 10 silver and gold Mylar tinsel. I'm going to tie in the tinsel with the gold side out. Because there is no tail on this, I have the opportunity to just tie in the tag back here, wrapping down to just about the point of the hook, maybe a little bit past the point of the hook. That space is all for the tag. I can then tie in, or I can attach the floss body, and I can apply the floss body and then apply the silver tinsel and rib at the same time. I don't have to put the tag in, trim away the tinsel, then put the body in, and or add the tinsel back in, then put the body in. So I want to make certain that I get enough floss out here. It's long enough. Usually about 12 inches, 13 inches long is going to be enough, but you'd be surprised how much it takes on the body of this. Now, I'm not going to extend the floss all the way to the end here. This is going to be more of a fishing fly, so I'm just going to put it about halfway. I'm not as concerned about having a really, really nice, smooth body on this. I'm going to wrap forward, binding in the tinsel and that floss, and then when I get to the end of the body, I'll apply the floss and then the tinsel. With my thread up the end of the body, I'll put a little bit of wax on there to help grip the materials when I tie them in. I'll apply the floss body and then the tag and the rib. tinsel in, right up into the body. Actually, I'm even kind of into the head space here. That's all right. I'll trim away the excess. Now, it's not important how many wraps you have in the rib as much as it is that they are all evenly spaced. Advancing my thread forward, I'm going to attach my orange thread. The Demon has the head of it is black with an orange band, but if I put the orange on top of the black, it'll darken up the orange. So I put a base of orange on and then put the black bands in. I'm using the Danville 70 Denier orange thread for this. A little wax on my thread. I'm going to wrap down on the thread and the tag there so I can then trim away both. We'll put the underbelly and throat in, and then the wing. The underbelly is just some white bucktail. You want to get some nice straight bucktails here. You're going to clean them out. Generally, the underbellies on these are fairly sparse. They're not super thick, and you don't want them flaring out that much. Now, understand that when this swims in the water, this is all pretty much going to stay together up under here. It's not going to spread out. Sometimes they'll flare and it spreads out a little bit when it's on the vise, but in the water, it'll behave very different. I'm going to measure that so it's just past the bend of the hook. Secure that on the underside. Away the excess. I'll put a few wraps on there to secure that, smooth things off a little bit. Now we'll put in our throat. The throat on the Demon is some white hackle. I'm using some white Schlappen here. Now, you want to get a feather that has some nice long barbs to it. Something like this has some nice long barbs to it that we want to use for the throat. You're going to take, I don't count the barbs. I actually go by more or less the length on the rachis. That's about 3/8 of an inch, something like that. You're going to get those perpendicular to the rachis so that the tips are even. You just peel those off. And then just kind of roll and bunch those together. Barbs have to be fairly long because you want your throat to go about halfway down the body. You're going to tie those in. We're going to put 3 clumps in. Put one on the bottom, and you put one on each side. The other thing is, if your barbs are longer, then it's easier to cut the excess off here. Sometimes it just gets to be fiddly trying to get your scissors in there to get every little bit. So we're going to wrap the butt ends of that down, smoothing this off for our wing. A little bit of wax on my thread. First part of the wing is some Peacock Herl. I've got a peacock feather here. I'm just going to peel off 4 to 6 peacock Herls. Get those tips matched up. You could use strung Herl if you want to. If that's all you have, that's fine. You don't have to have a peacock feather. These are kind of nice because the whole feather is easier to steam and get fluffed out a little bit. Often the tips aren't as broken on the strung Herl, which I've used many, many times in these videos, and on many flies, especially if it's a fishing fly. But a lot of times your strung Herls, because they've been handled so much, the tips are kind of ragged on them. So we're going to tie this in. This is our underwing. I refer to it as an underwing wing. The recipe she has, it's all part of the wing. But we're going to tie the Herl in as long as the bucktail. Yeah, the recipe, when you read it, will read 4 to 6 strands of peacock Herl, and then it will also list out the hackles that are in the wing, because the shoulder and cheek are separate from the hackles. In this case, it's 4 grizzly hackles, so I've got 2 on my side, and there's going to be 2 on the other side. It makes up the wing, plus there's a shoulder of Lady Amherst, and the Lady Amherst has to go about halfway down the wing with a cheek of jungle cock. These are all pre-made, meaning that they're made, I'm glued and made these ahead of time so that the video is just a little bit shorter, a little bit more concise. Now, one thing I'm going to do, which I normally don't do in these videos, I normally just clip the ends off the rachis here to a short stub to tie in, but the Lady Amherst is very narrow. If I were to take away these barbs right here to basically have the bottom of it terminate where the hackles do, the shoulder gets very, very narrow. So I lose, these barbs right up in here on the shoulder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave those attached, and I'm going to tie those in so those extra barbs right here will give me the width that I'm looking for. So I'm going to set this up here looking at where the base of the grizzly hackle is, and also the base of the jungle cock there. That's where I'm going to tie this in. As you'll see, it just ties in and wraps in those extra barbs on the Lady Amherst, and I don't lose the width on my shoulder that I otherwise would. Once that's in, I'm going to tie the other one in and secure them, and then I will trim those away. And I like to do it that way simply because sometimes they don't want to cooperate. They want to turn on the hook shank. They want to twist on you. Sometimes you got to mess with it a little bit to get the wing just the way you want it. Well, if I cut these too short right away, then I run into an issue of, again, narrowing up that shoulder just a little bit. This way I've got my wing in. It is on both sides of the body here. My shoulder has a nice width to it, and everything looks good. I'll put a few more wraps to snug that up, a little bit of wax on my thread. Now I'll trim away all this excess here. Often you can just bend that back to get in nice and tight. Use my thumbnail to kind of push that down just a little bit. Give the thread an easier time of it. Now we'll shape the head and the resulting orange under body, if that's what you call it, to the head. Because remember, the head is black with an orange band. But if I were to do this all in black and then put an orange band on the center of it, which would be a little bit easier, quicker, the orange gets darkened up. So I'm just going to leave the orange head here, nice and smooth. Everything's covered up. A little bit of wax on my thread. And I'll secure the orange thread, and then I'm going to put the black thread on to put the black bands in. I like the hackles to just run right down the hook shank a little bit, but through managing all this and holding the hook and the fly and everything, sometimes they get riding up a little bit more. So for black thread, I'm using a Danville 70 Denier in black. I get some wax on my thread, and I'm simply going to put a black band in the rear portion and a black band in the front portion. The black band, it's usually about even width. So you divide the head into thirds, and 1/3 in the back is going to be black, then a third orange and another third black. You want to make certain that you take a little bit of care not to put too many thread wraps in here, because we don't want to bulk this up back here. We just want to cover up all that orange in the rear portion of the head. So it looks like we have a black head with an orange band. I think that rear portion got a little bit wider than I wanted it to, but that happens. A little wax and a whip finish. The rear portion is done. Now I'll do the front portion. So once this is done, I'll put some head cement onto the head to secure everything, and then that is a thin head cement that will soak down into all those thread wraps and secure it, and then I'll put a couple of coats of a clear lacquer on here to just protect the threads a little bit. Just helps hold it together a little bit more. So the head cement that I'm using is it's called Fly Tight, and it is an alcohol-based head cement. Like I said, it will soak down into the thread wraps there, help to seal all that up, and help to bond that together. And it's just for protection. Again, get my wings placed a little bit better where I like them. Of course, when this is fished, it's going to be take on a life of its own in terms of the wings and where they go and what it looks like. There is the demon. The bottom portion of this wing got a little bit squished. That is Carrie Stevens' Demon Streamer. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com, where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.